This week in Jamaica Now. Historic. Jamaican women in football, netball and volleyball bring global glory to the Rock. The regulator for the legal profession warns Isat Buchanan sanctioned over comments involving DPP Paula Llewellyn. 8 skulls found in Trelawny. The police are searching for answers. And Jamaica confirms it is still interested in sending troops to help stabilize violence-wracked Haiti. I'm Jovan Johnson, and this is Jamaica Now. It was a historic week for sports in Jamaica. First, from Australia, Jamaica's Reggae Girls are through to the round of 16 at the FIFA Women's World Cup, becoming the first Caribbean nation to do so. The girls needed at least a draw against Brazil, and they did just that, frustrating and condemning the South Americans to being knocked out at the first round stage for the first time in more than 25 years. Jamaica ended Group F on 5 points, 2 behind leaders France. The player of the match went to Jamaican goalkeeper Rebecca Spencer. The Reggae Girls will play Colombia on August 8th for a place in the quarterfinals. Not long after the match, global headlines suggested that the team had little support from the government and had to seek public help. There was also this comment from Captain Khadija Shaw.
A lot of people count us out. A lot of people didn't believe in us. Even people who were supposed to back us, gave up on us. We had to do GoFund to get money to be here where we are. We had to sacrifice so much to be here. So to be here now and moving on is just an incredible feeling, man.
But the government and the Jamaica Football Federation, JFF, countered that there was no GoFundMe support to the national program. JFF President Michael Ricketts said despite the financial constraints, the National Association spent nearly $3 million to help the girls prepare for the tournament. And at the Netball World Cup in South Africa, Jamaica's Sunshine Girls will play Australia for a place in the semi-finals. It follows their historic win over defending champions New Zealand on Thursday. Jamaica beat the Silver Ferns 59-48 to claim their first Netball World Cup win over New Zealand. Jamaica conceded 15 turnovers as opposed to New Zealand's 18, handing the defending champions their largest defeat in a World Cup. And Jamaica won its first Caribbean Zonal Volleyball Association Women's Championship in Suriname on Sunday. The Jamaicans powered to a comeback 3-2 victory over Trinidad and Tobago, denying the Twin Island Republic its 8th consecutive title. Jamaica were imperious in their title run, going unbeaten in the women's competition. Meanwhile, the Jamaican men finished 5th, defeating Martinique in straight sets. In other news now, Chairman of the General Legal Counsel, King's Counsel Denise Kitson, has lodged a complaint against attorney Isat Buchanan for unsavory comments made against the Director of Public Prosecutions, Paula Llewellyn, and Justice Minister Delroy Chuck. The complaint was sent to the General Legal Counsel's Disciplinary Committee on Wednesday for a decision to be made on whether there is a case against Mr. Buchanan. Mr. Buchanan sparked public outcry and condemnation from several civil society groups as well as political organizations after he made the offensive comments. Mr. Buchanan, while co-hosting a YouTube program on Sunday, made the comments while quoting lyrics from convicted murderer and dancehall artiste Vybz Kartel's song The Menace, in which he instructed the DPP to perform a certain sexual act. Mrs. Kitson alleges that the comments failed to maintain the honor and dignity of the legal profession and tended to discredit the profession. Mr. Buchanan has apologized for what he called his unfortunate comments. He was also forced to resign as chairman of the opposition People's National Party's Human Rights Commission. And the PNP and the Private Sector Organization of Jamaica, PSOJ, have traded strong words over the matter. PSOJ President Metri Siaga called for PNP President Mark Golding to apologize to Jamaican women over Mr. Isat Buchanan's comments. But the PNP hit back and accused the PSOJ head of exercising political bias towards the governing Jamaica Labour Party. PNP Chairman Dr. Angela Brown-Burke argued that the party took what she called decisive action over the matter and noted Mr. Buchanan's resignation as head of the human rights body and the condemnation from the PNP women's movement. Dr. Brown-Burke said that the PSOJ's request was hypocritical because it had never made a similar request of Prime Minister and JLP leader Andrew Holness, despite what she said were the many utterances and alleged actions linked to Everett Warmington, George Wright and others from the ruling party. The PSOJ head said he has been fair and that the PNP was looking for a fight that he would not entertain. And Jamaica's Constitutional Court ruled on Monday that the government did not violate the Constitution when it granted an extension in 2020 for DPP Paula Llewellyn to remain in her post for an additional 3 years after she was initially set to retire at age 60. The case was brought by murder convict Mervyn Cameron, who was represented by attorney Hugh Wildman. Mr. Cameron argued that the extension granted to the DPP in 2020 was not done before her 60th birthday as required by the Constitution. On Monday, Justice Lorna Shelley Williams read the unanimous decision in the matter that was heard by 3 judges.
I find that declarations 1, 2, and 5 being sought by the claimant cannot be granted. Now, these declarations, the premise behind those declarations was that the extension granted to the DPP had not been gazetted. The extraordinary gazette that contained the extension granted to the DPP was attached to an exhibit, as an exhibit to the affidavit of Ms. Mendez. The two other declarations being sought by the claimant, I find that the agreement to extend the tenure of the DPP was arrived at prior to her attaining the age of 60, and as such, there was no breach of Section 96(1)(b) of the Constitution. I know that my sisters Pettigrew Collins and my sister Wolf Rees has included in the judgment that they have read in draft my judgment, and they agree with my reasoning and conclusion, and there is nothing that they can usefully add. So the orders in relation to this matter are that the declarations being sought in the fixed stay and claim form are all denied.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness has dismissed widespread public criticisms that his administration failed to consult before pushing through a constitutional amendment that extended the retirement age for Director of Public Prosecutions and the Auditor General from age 60 to 65. The Jamaican Bar Association, rights group Jamaicans for Justice, and the opposition PNP raised concerns about the manner in which the government pursued the amendment.
The objective of the government of Jamaica in increasing the pension age of the 2 offices that are constitutionally acknowledged, the objective was to fulfill a government policy which started as far back as my recollection. When I was in the cabinet of Bruce Golding, the discussions were ongoing about increasing the pension age. I'm certain the previous PNP administration also carried that discussion as part of IMF considerations. In 2017, that found its way into legislation, cabinet decision, and then legislation moved by the Minister of Justice. It was debated in Parliament, so if you're asking about consultation, that is the ultimate consultation. So the issue of the increase in the pensionable age is something that has been well defined. The question is, why would there be an objection to this? And it would appear that the objection is not uniform. The objection is to one particular office versus another.
Advocates have argued that the focus on the DPP is on the basis that the incumbent Paula Llewellyn was originally due to retire in 2020 but received an extension of 3 years, which would have expired this September. The Auditor General, Pamela Monroe Ellis, is not close to retirement age. Career Public Administrator Audrey Sewell has been appointed Cabinet Secretary, the first female to head the Jamaican Civil Service. She is being replaced as Permanent Secretary in the Office of the Prime Minister by former Head of the Army, Ambassador Rocky Meade. Prime Minister Andrew Holness Thursday confirmed that Jamaica remains committed to sending troops to Haiti as part of attempts to bring stability to a country overrun with gang violence. The Gleaner reported earlier this week that the Jamaica Defence Force had started making preparations for the mission. The Trelawny police are making checks with local cemeteries regarding possible unauthorized exhumations after the discovery of what appears to be 8 charred human skulls in a bushy area of Coral Springs in the parish on Tuesday. Acting Assistant Commissioner of Police in charge of Area 1, Vernon Ellis, said it appeared that the skulls were dumped and burnt at the location. The area is an illegal dumping site for garbage. Crime scene investigators have removed the skulls. Mr. Ellis said there were no other remains, no clothing or anything to suggest that the skulls were not dumped at the location. Cabinet Minister Daryl has filed a defamation suit against PNP General Secretary Dr. Dayton Campbell over statements made in July. Mr. Vaz says the comments falsely link him to murder and are driven by malice. He's seeking aggravated and exemplary damages. Mr. Vaz, who is the Minister of Science, Energy, Telecommunications and Transport, is also seeking an injunction to restrain Dr. Campbell, who is a medical doctor, from further publishing or causing to be published the alleged defamatory comments. And that's it for this edition of Jamaica Now, your weekly review of the big news stories. Send us your comments at onlinefeedback@gleanerjm.com. Follow us on X, which is formerly Twitter, and Instagram at Jamaica Gleaner, and on Facebook at Gleaner Jamaica. Like this video on our YouTube page, turn on a notification, and subscribe today. I'm Jovan Johnson, and before we go, we bring you highlights of the Emancipation Day donkey races in Top Hill, St. Catherine.